Hey y'all, welcome to the Team LocoFit Roundtable, hosted by me, Laurin Conlon, owner of Team LocoFit. Each week, I am joined by one of our coaches to dive headfirst into the nutrition, training, mindset, and coaching strategies we use with our clients. If you loved the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, you know the drill. And for more information about coaching, the programs we offer, and additional content, visit teamlocofit.com.
All right, y'all, we are back. And this week's episode, I'm so excited to announce, is with Sam Hall, our newest Team LocoFit coach. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. This has been in the works for several weeks. Just a quick little backstory, and then I'll let Sam explain her background to you guys. She had been a client for years. It was an amazing client, and I always thought, this would be somebody who would be such a good coach. And then as she was finishing up her master's, she actually wanted to start coaching on her own. She had started things. I was like, you know what? I just feel like she'd be such a great fit. Why don't I just ask and see? I didn't want to intrude, on you wanting to do your own business, but I was like, let me just ask and see. And you wanted to be a part of it. So I'm so incredibly excited. I know you're going to be an amazing coach to the team and a great asset. So give a little bit of your history and your background kind of in the industry and also with your education.
Yeah. So I've been in the fitness industry for like 9, almost 10 years now. I started as a group fitness instructor through college, like step box, floor aerobics, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I'm thinking about bringing it back. But then I went to school for education, and throughout my entire college experience and then my first couple of years teaching, I still worked in fitness. And after a year of teaching 7th grade science, I was like, I'm good. Like, this is good. So I went fitness full time and started working for Orange Theory Fitness full time, and progressed through that company for about 5 years. Ended up as a head coach at several studios. My husband and I move all over. We've lived in like 5 states in 5 years. It's not fun. Wouldn't recommend it. But throughout that time, I was also getting my master's in exercise science. And throughout that time too, I had been going through my own fitness stuff, where I really wanted to focus on like building my body. I'd had eating disorders throughout high school and early college, and just never really had a good relationship with food after that. Those effects linger. Might not be like a full-on eating disorder, but just wasn't in a good place with food. And so I reached out to Laurin to do my first reverse and just like really like have that person to hold me accountable to actually eat. And we did that for like, I don't know, it was probably like 5 or 6 months. And then we did like a mini cut, or like a full-on cut actually, to a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was like, I had never really thought I wanted to compete. And okay, I know I wanted to compete. I just didn't think I could. And so I never like let myself entertain that until I did that cut. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And so then we did my first 2 shows and went really well, ended up getting nationally qualified. And and then finished my master's and was asked to join the team by Laurin. And I was working on my own at the time and just missed the collaboration, and to work with people who are like so much smarter than you. Like, this entire team is just the goal, so I can learn from you guys and get that experience, and I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, so you're going to be so awesome, and you've already been coaching people. You have a great history of coaching and communicating, and that's a huge thing obviously for our team. It's just communication in general. It's not just about, hey, here's a plan and have at it. We really focus on communicating with our clients and actually developing those habits. And that actually is what this 2-part series is going to be about. The first one is going to be more about exercise and just physical activity in general. And then the second one is going to be about diet. And it's really, what are the lifestyle factors that are holding you back? And this is, think about it. If you're listening and you're just trying to get into this, or maybe you're helping other people who are just starting out, or this is a family member or a friend, whoever needs to like just get started. What are the really simple things that are holding this person back? Because we get so caught up in all the stuff that we know. And it's really hard to detach from what because you're like, oh, everybody knows that you should eat protein 4 times a day. Everybody knows you should drink water. Everybody knows you should have 2 gallons of soda a day. Obviously, I'm being a little bit sarcastic here, but seriously, some people really like where we need to start. And one of the big pieces of this is activity. And a lot of people actually get this messed up where they put their priorities. So let's start with that. The sedentary lifestyle. training? Like, what should people actually be focused on here?
Yeah. Um, as we all know, we live pretty sedentary lifestyles at this point. I found it interesting. A 2010 statistic showed that 71% of our day is spent sitting for most Americans, which that was 2010. That was before
I
we had
can't even
smartphones.
imagine oh my God.
Like, yeah.
Really?
I mean, well, we had smartphones, but they were like those
But
Blackberries with like little tiny keyboards. Like,
yeah.
we were spending so much time on that. But
Yeah,
now
I'm trying to think, you're
everybody
right.
has
Yeah.
a screen that we're watching Netflix on or whatever. Like, I would love to see that statistic now. And like,
Redone.
even
Yeah.
just pre to post pandemic, because I feel like we all kind of like, maybe we went for a few more walks, but like everybody was just like homebound. And so I would be interested to see what that statistic is like now. But like, overall, we just live really sedentary lifestyles. And so that's going to affect you overall with lowering your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the calories you're burning throughout your day. Which is in turn going to affect your total daily energy expenditure. So you're going to burn less calories throughout your day, which is going to lead to probably some weight gain, which leads to those weight-related issues like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, different cancers. And there's actually a link between the time we spend being sedentary and your mortality. Like, you're more likely to die if you don't move. So it's like, it's not just your exercise and your weight, which is clearly affected, but it's also like
All-cause mortality goes up when you are more sedentary. And like you said, our lifestyles are contributing to this, and understandably so, right? Like, the way that the world is now, like, it's very different. And that's okay. That's not gonna change, right? So we're not trying to say like, oh my God, you got to go out and, be walking all day in the grass and like don't go to work and sunbathe and do that. Like, no, like
has it. Yeah.
like, cool if you can do that, but 99.999% of people are not going to be able to. So what are some ways to easily kind of combat this as far as physical activity goes first? We'll cover that chunk, because physical activity is different or distinct from training. We do want to make those distinctions. So just general physical activity, what are some ways that we can improve that kind of on like a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So most people have it backwards, where they think, if I can just go get this really hard workout in for like an hour a day, I'm good. And like, then they spend the rest of the day sitting, where really, you're right. It's that overall like physical activity that matters. Not to say like vigorous activity doesn't have its place, and it does help benefit this situation, but it is more beneficial to get more physical activity throughout your day. So one of the best things we can do is take breaks from being sedentary. Like, just getting up and doing something for like 2 minutes is better than doing nothing. And so you're right, we can't just like phone it in and just like walk the rest of our day. It's unless you're like a farmer, which like perhaps, but
Yeah.
most of us aren't doing that. So if you could just get up and do something, great. Another thing is standing. There's mixed research on whether this like has a huge benefit, but I'm still going to argue, like, especially for like posture, the different like pains we can get from sitting so much, like standing's probably going to help. And you use a standing desk, right?
I'm at a standing desk right now.
Sitting at mine.
You're like, damn it. Let me get a book. I gotta prop this up. Yeah, I go back and forth. So it's actually interesting. Sometimes there are certain things that I like doing standing, and there's other things that I like doing sitting. So like the way, I don't know whether my brain works, like the way that I'm standing, like I like standing when I'm talking. And I definitely like sitting when I'm doing something that's more like task oriented or a little bit more focus related. But I do think, I do agree that going between the two, again, that's movement. And we say like, hey, make sure you're moving in the day. Doesn't, like I said, doesn't mean you need to go out and do this like extravagant thing. Go, get more water.
Yeah.
Go take the long, like if you are at an office, like make sure that you're walking, like instead of like it, and I actually noticed this too, because I started leasing at a co-working space. It's normally, you guys know, where we normally record the podcast. So in that space, it's like it's in like a huge high-rise building, and they own basically like 2 floors of it, right? So I have my own office, but then there's like the bathroom, and then there's like the area to get like drinks, and then there's like, like the stairs and whatever, right? Like all this stuff. So I try and be as active as I can. Like, okay, if I'm going to go to the bathroom, then I need to try and walk far to get water. Of course, not every time. I can't always do that, right? Like sometimes I just got to get up and get back to work. But sometimes if I can make like a little loop or like some kind of an effort to move more, that's gonna be really helpful. Because otherwise, I mean, I could literally just sit at my desk. And right now, like you said, especially with not even just, you know, obviously the pandemic, but a lot of people now are working from home. All of that has changed people. So like somebody's normal business who normally is traveling every week, right? Like they're in the airport, they're walking around, they're doing stuff, they're on the job, they're, you know, in the field. Now they're literally typing on their computer. I have some clients who are like, yeah, I'm literally at my desk for 8 hours a day. I can barely like get water, right? Like I can barely go to the bathroom. So like, how are you, because they're on so many calls and conferences. It's not like they're that busy, like as far as like they're just being bad like with their time management. They're just literally like on back-to-back stuff. So, you know, you have to make it, if you know that's you need to do something beforehand, right? Like you need to make sure, okay, in the morning I'm going to wake up, I'm going to spend 20 minutes and I'm going to go for like 2 laps around my neighborhood or whatever, right? If you can't do it during the day. But if you had that luxury to kind of get up a little bit more frequently, certainly do that. I think, I can't remember what study it was, or I mean, I read this so long ago, but basically people who, I think it was training. Basically people who trained, like had like a larger chunk of training at one part in the day. Wow, this lighting is awesome. Literally like the light is coming in and like if you guys are watching it, I have a complete like the blinds are on me. Couldn't look worse right now. So basically like they either trained, it was a certain amount of steps or a certain amount of calories burned, whatever it was per like a small amount of time, or they spread it out throughout the day. And the people who had that harder one chunk, I think it was cardio. I think it was like either 10-minute intervals, like little blocks, or it was like 1 30-minute chunk or something like that. And basically the people who did it all at once were a lot more sedentary during the day than people who did it more frequently. And I don't know if that's what you were citing or if there is like more research on that, but it's so interesting because people, when they do, they're basically, their mind says, oh, I had this hard workout, I had this vigorous activity, now I can just sit down for the rest of the day because I already did that.
Yeah, that goes along with the I deserved it mentality almost, where people who do that also tend to overeat because they think, I did this hard workout, I deserve this treat, I deserve this. And it's like, you deserve to celebrate what your body did, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have burned this massive amount of calories that you now get to like go off the rails. Like, but you're right. And there's honestly when we look at the benefits of physical activity versus sedentary activity, the people who sat 8 hours a day or more, no matter what amount of like activity they were doing, they were still the highest risk factor for like different health related issues. So rather than doing that one big thing and then being sedentary for a large chunk of time, like sitting for 8 hours or more, breaking that up into those chunks. And I think that you made an important point there. Like it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be an hour-long walk. Like getting out for 6 10-minute walks, it's the same amount of volume. You probably were able to bring more intensity to it because it was a shorter amount of time. Like you're going to get just as much, if not more of a benefit out of that than thinking like, oh, if I'm not doing an hour, it's not worth it. Or I'm not doing 30 minutes, it's not worth it. Like just doing 10, 15 minutes at a time, like that adds up. And so, yeah, huge point there. And I think that is something that's another like little thing you can add in throughout your day. And we talk about post-meal walks as a team all the time. Another just great way to throw in that activity as well as like improve your digestion too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there is actual research on this too. It's not just anecdote, and they do a lot better job at controlling blood glucose regulation after a meal. So the reason why people recommend that is, hey, okay, you know, you have a meal, you want to control your blood glucose, go do that. And then also it does help with your digestion. And then just in general, I noticed too, like, and we all get lazy, right? Like I get lazy, you get lazy with it. Like we all are like, yeah, I want to do this. And then like, you just don't, right? And I get it. Some days are busier than others. You're running around, you have to do stuff, but just even getting out for one of those, you feel so much better. And then extra nerdy, cool stuff, which I'm not that smart to explain this, but essentially like if you can try and do outside walks, 2 to 10 minutes outside, basically when the sun is coming up and when the sun is coming down, to help set your circadian rhythm. The way that the colors are with like the sunrise and the sunset and like you looking through them signals your circadian rhythm to be on track. It's actually really, really cool. And this is something that I learned during, I feel like I talked about this on one of the podcasts, but I cannot remember. So if I did, I'm sorry guys, but if not, I'm just sharing this again. Cool. You double learned it. So there's this guy, his name's Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he's amazing. I've been following him for a while. And during quarantine, he actually posted something about like a digital concussion. And essentially what, people were, he had somebody reach out like, hey, I've been on my phone a lot more, obviously because of what's going on. And I almost feel like I have like this sense of a concussion, like my, like kind of brain fog, like my peripheral vision is like funky and like things kind of feel like they're in portrait mode and like whatever. And basically like when our eyes are so used to looking at either a screen or particularly a phone, it's so narrow, right? Like we're looking narrowly and like smaller because that's what we're obviously looking at. So what he was talking about, because this guy studies like vision and stressors and like he does a bunch of cool neuroscience research. So what he was saying is ideally you want to be outside for the circadian rhythm to set with like the sunrise and the sunset, but also extra bonus is as you are outside, either walking or sitting, to be looking far, and that looking away and kind of far like into the distance is actually going to help kind of regulate that. Oh my God, when I started doing that, I felt I thought I was going to go to the eye doctor. My eyes were like hurting so bad just because over time I'm on the computer, on my phone, I'm on everything all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my vision. This is finally it, whatever. Like, but it wasn't all the time, which is why I was like, this is so weird. Like sometimes I can see perfectly, and other times like that when he said portrait mode, I was like, yes, that is literally what I feel like. So just like an extra fun fact, if you can do your 10-minute walks after a meal and in the morning, and those are the most ideal, like bang for your buck, like you're checking every box here. And again, is that going to be every day? No. But if you're going to go do it, try and make it one or two of those at least during that period of time. The other thing too is when people exercise really intensely, and this goes back to kind of like the reward thing, but just in general, people have a really hard time regulating their appetite with exercise.
Yeah.
So activity is still going to be burning calories, but it's a lot less intense. And for whatever reason, there isn't really that, like, you don't go on a 10-minute walk and you're like, whew, gotta have a bowl of ice cream. Like you're not thinking that. I mean, maybe I'm like,
You might.
I get it. But generally speaking, you don't feel like completely wiped out. You don't have this huge appetite response. Whereas a lot of time with exercise, people are notoriously bad at understanding, like they'll do a workout and then like in research they'll be like, hey, how many calories do you think you burned? They're like, oh, like 600, and it was like 2, which again, how accurate are calories burned? How important is that? That's a whole different conversation. But just in general, kind of understanding that and seeing, okay, hey, like maybe this just like moderate activity is important, but also understanding the types of training, which is what we definitely want to get into also, how important that is, because obviously we still want people to be healthy, metabolically, and, build muscle mass for a whole bunch of other reasons, build bone density. So we're a huge fan of resistance training and not just going in there and just doing these haphazard workouts. So yes, be physically active, but also when you do go train, like make it worth it.
Yeah. And with training, like weight training specifically, you're not burning calories. And I think people get so caught up in that where they're like, I only burn 150 or 250 calories in my hour-long strength training workout. And it's like, okay, that's not your goal. Your goal isn't to burn at this time. Your goal is to build. And what you're building is that muscle that's going to then produce long-term caloric burn at rest. Like you're building the foundation for something greater. And so to shift that mindset is super important. And on top of that, you are still moving, you are still getting that burn, you are still getting the benefits of being physically active too. So like it's a win-win. It's just shifting that mindset that's really important. And I think a lot of people in general population, which I typically work with, just have always seemed like I gotta do more, I have to do as hard as much as I can, or else it's not worth it, when it's just
the alternative is them doing nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're like, hard workout or sit on the couch. No. Hard workout if you can make it work. If you can't, do something else. And that's the same thing in we always try to work this message in with diet as well. It's either like I'm 100% on or I'm 100% off. It's like, no. We try to be as close as we can to where we want to be, right? Like that's obvious. That's ideal. It's optimal. But I'd rather you be at 90 or 80 or even 70%, really any percent above 0, right? Like if it still can't be, it's not 100 or it's not 0. Like we need to be somewhere, understand that there are going to be fluctuations, there are going to be ranges. So to your point, Sam, like if you have a really hard workout, but like let's say something comes up where you can't do it or you don't want to do it or whatever, just saying, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna sit on the couch for 3 days, not the right response here either.
Yeah. I think Karina just posted about that today. Like she had a really busy day and all she was able to do was like 15 minutes and like 20 kettlebell swings or something like that. And it's like, that was better than nothing for her in that situation. And that's the truth. And it's just, again, it really is just getting out of that mindset of like what we're conditioned to think we have to do. And a lot of women struggle with this, especially when we talk about like decreasing cardio and increasing strength training. It's like, but that burn, like I need that burn. I need to see that caloric burn. And it's like, no, like let's change that approach to training for the long-term benefit. And then again, like I said before, that's not to say there isn't a place for like vigorous workouts. Like I worked for Orange Theory for 5 years, love it. But I've seen people who do it 7 days a week and then they never see the results because they're killing themselves and then they're sedentary the rest of the day. Like let's lower that volume, like 3 to 4 times a week is fine. I think 2 to 3 is even better. Sprinkle in some actual like heavy resistance training in there, some more physical activity throughout your day. And that's like a program that's not only going to be better for you long term, it's also a lot more manageable. You're not going to have as many injuries and long term like effects from that high intensity, like chronic high intensity.
Yes. And that, I mean, that leads to, particularly in women, a whole bunch of hormonal issues as well. That just leads to, I mean, basically you're just depleting your body a lot faster, right? And with women, that like hormones is kind of what gets hit hardest in that area when we are depleting. And then, you know, most likely if somebody's eating up and down like very inconsistently, that's not going to help fuel recovery. So you have to think about resistance training as not necessarily calorie burning, but more so setting yourself up and your future self for success. Okay, I'm building muscle, which is going to help me. I can just sit around and have a better body composition. My food is working basically for me. And then of course, also like the bone mineral density benefits too, which is super cool, especially for chicks. And then, yeah, again, like, you know, cardio is great and it can be a great tool, but when you're done with that session, it's not doing anything for you, right? So you have to understand how to manage that. And like you said too, with the types of vigorous like HIIT classes and things of that nature, you know, that is a big effort. And if your body is not recovering from that, and it's not recovering from, you know, that repeatedly multiple times a week, twice a week, sure, okay. But if you're not actively recovering from that, I mean, even when I started doing jujitsu, I've been lifting for 12 years, right? I ran track and cross country in high school, so I have a high aerobic base. Not anymore, but like I've done a lot of that. I've done obviously tons of cardio with training, like for competitions and things of that nature. But when I decided to start doing jiu-jitsu, I knew, okay, I'm somebody who's a little bit more injury prone. I'm somebody who can't physically tolerate a ton of training, like lifting volume, because I will get hurt. So I really need to manage this appropriately so I can actually do this effectively. And obviously, jiu-jitsu and any kind of martial arts in general is full body. Like grappling is so incredibly hard, and you're obviously not just doing a lot of movement, but you're also doing it with somebody on top of you and fighting them. And so there's a lot happening there. So I knew like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm really dialed in with like my diet that day, like my recovery, and when am I training, like lifting, when am I doing all these other things, like how much volume am I doing? So you have to moderate that. If I were just like, I'm going to take classes every day and I'm still going to lift every day, you're bound to have issues, you know, and it might not happen right away for people, but they're going to build and like something is going to give. So, you know, if you are going to take those classes, and, you know, we totally are fully in support, of course, Sam said she worked there literally for 5 years. But if you're going to do something like that, you know, make sure that you're balancing out. And I think that, you know, like you said, that is one of the hardest things when somebody's just getting started, is they're so used to either doing nothing or doing everything. And this goes, of course, with diet. This goes with any behavioral and lifestyle changes. But it's so notorious with the activity and training component.
Yeah. I think that really is like the moral to the story of like the biggest barrier to a healthy fitness routine in the general population is the total push towards a sedentary lifestyle that we have in our work and in our leisure time, and knowing that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and that doing it, just those small walks, the getting up, the doing your like strength training and sprinkling in high intensity, like that's enough. It doesn't have to be this all or nothing where it's like, well, I didn't work out today, so I might as well just like watch Netflix for the rest of the night. Like, oh, you didn't work out today? Like, okay, fine, let's go for a 5-minute walk. Let's do something. And that is in all of fitness. And I think we'll talk about this in the next the next episode. It's very much the all or nothing mentality and the like, I have to change everything or nothing. And with the lifestyle factors that go against us with fitness and being physically active, like you have control over this. Like even if you work a desk job, like I was a teacher, I know what it's like to be confined to a room. Like you can still get up and like you said, go to the bathroom, drink your water, and then you'll have to go to the bathroom. Like structure your day around that. Like you said, get up, go for a walk after dinner, take the kids with you, like build those things into your day. And remember that like it's total volume that counts. It's not, doesn't have to be this big chunk of time. It doesn't have to be this super high intense chunk of time. And like another thing, like you said with jujitsu, find hobbies that promote exercise. I taught myself how to dance during quarantine. I'm the only shuffler that doesn't have a TikTok, but like that's my hobby. I love it. I look ridiculous, but it makes me so happy and it gets me moving. And you with jujitsu, like it challenges you in other ways, but it also gets you moving. So
Yes.
Again, building your lifestyle to support that movement, like doesn't have to be this huge undertaking. Just do something.
So I'll finish it out with this, which is not necessarily directly related to physical activity, but an interesting point how you kind of tied that in there with like the relaxing and like watching TV or doing whatever. So I read this book called Digital Minimalism. I was like raving about it during quarantine. It's just amazing. Anybody who struggles with kind of social media and just kind of the digital world in general, like I do, it's really, really eye-opening and just gives really great tools. But the one thing that he brought up, which I thought was so insightful, was like how people will look at, you know, hey, I'm going to watch TV and I'm going to relax, and I'm going to sit on the beach, or I'm going to relax, which those all are 100% valid. But how many times have you sat on the couch to then scroll through Instagram for an hour to relax, and now you don't even feel any better? Whereas there are a whole movement of, not even a movement of people, but people who do things and like build things or just like are actually doing things that they find relaxing and enjoyable, and how much happier those people are. Like, and I'm not saying everybody needs to go like, you know, build something, right? Or needs to go like fix a car or needs to go do whatever, right? But just doing something that's not just passive, and actually like you are a part of it, and like you are, you know, learning, even if it's like a puzzle, you know what I mean? Like just something. So I just thought that was a really interesting point, and that kind of ties into this too. Like, don't just think that you have to be either super active or just really sedentary. And yeah, I think that rounds that out. Do you have anything else to add for this one?
No, I think that's awesome.
All right, now I officially look like a skeleton. What is happening?
I couldn't help but start smirking as it went up to your chin.
It literally is so bad. You guys got to tune in for the video to see how terrible this is. In any case, if you guys have any other questions, you can send us an email, info@teamlogofit.com. For anything else, as far as articles, podcasts, products we offer, that is all found on teamlogofit.com. And if you would like to apply for coaching, and specifically apply for coaching now with Sam, you can certainly do that on our website as well. So thank you guys so much, and we will catch you next time.